Do the Jaguars stink? I mean,
Yep.
but they shouldn't though. They shouldn't. Every metric. Well, no. Everything on paper looks like they shouldn't. It looks like Trevor Lawrence should have taken a bigger leap or was taking a bigger leap. They got the coach there. I, I, I just don't want to believe they stink, but Cody, they stink, huh?
They should have lost week 1. I talked about that one on my top 10 thoughts show after week 1 is they should have lost that game to the Indianapolis Colts if it wasn't for a special teams blunder in the fourth quarter. The Colts had that one all but in the bag and they choked it away. They just don't know how to win. That's just how it works sometimes in the NFL. And the Jaguars came out of that one. They won. And then of course they struggled last week and then they lose to Houston this week. CJ Stroud looks like a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence right now, which is weird because everyone thought Trevor Lawrence was the next coming of Christ and he was going to be, Peyton Manning after a year. And the talent's around him, right? He's got Evan Ingram, he's got Christian Kirk, he's got ETN, he's got Ridley now. He's going to be the alpha receiver. And Ridley had a number of drops in this game and Lawrence missed a number of guys in this game. And then you hear the announcer saying, yeah, they want to get ETN the ball between 18 and 25 times this game. And that didn't work in the first half. They got shut out. It was 17-0 at halftime. So they come out in the second half and continue to do the same stuff. And I don't know what the deal is. Teams haven't had a problem getting after the passer against Houston. And this game, both teams, 0 sacks across the board. When you have Trayvon Walker, when you have Kayvon Chason, when you have Devin Lloyd, when you have Josh Allen, guys that are supposed to be able to get after the quarterback, guys that you spent draft capital on to get after the quarterback. The Jaguars are I don't want to say this in the same context, but I want to say they're as disappointing as the Bears coming into the season, right? Everyone thought the Bears were going to be so good. Fields is going to win MVP. I'm not saying they're as disappointing, but what I'm saying is like this is a flop. Like they literally should be 0-3 right now. They should have lost to the Colts in week 1. It's putrid what they're doing. There's no I don't know what the word is. There's no real consistency to what they're bringing to the table on offense, and on defense they can't really cause a stop. They can't really. I mean, CJ Stroud just walked down the field multiple times, just ching, 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 all the way down the field multiple times in this game, hit Nathaniel Dell multiple times deep. He made it look too easy. And, playing the NFL, and there's a lot of talent on that Jaguars defense that just is not doing their job point blank.
Mark, what's going on here? Because, I mean, just looking at the stats, it's not like Trevor Lawrence is getting sacked into oblivion either. I mean, I don't think they gave up a sack yesterday. It wasn't about protection. So what's going on in Duval County?
This is on Doug Peterson. This is 100% on Doug Peterson. His offense looks flat, and I love that they played Houston this week, and I love that Houston trounced them because that goes into and ties into who's calling plays for Houston, and that's Bobby Slowick, who is he hails from the Kyle Shanahan, Gary Kubiak coaching tree. So he brings this layered route tree, outside zone run scheme to Houston. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing him utilize Nico Collins in interesting ways. We're seeing him utilize Tank Dell in interesting ways. He is creating space for his players to go out there and succeed. I mean, why have we been so high on Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and these players in Kyle Shanahan's offense in San Francisco? Because he is putting them in places to succeed. And that is what Bobby Slowick is doing in Houston. And so I honestly love the fact that Houston came in here and upset the Jags because it is night and day watching how these offenses are being run from a schematic standpoint where basically Doug Peterson, and this is kind of goes against what we've seen in the past from Doug Peterson. He is being highly reliant on game environment to dictate his aggression and his pace. And that's something that carried forward from last year as well. You look at Trevor Lawrence's pass attempts in games where they were kind of allowed to just control and take things easy and win it in the fourth quarter. Trevor Lawrence was maxing out 28-32 pass attempts. In games where they were pushed were the games where he's thrown 44 times. The fact that Doug Peterson offense continues to remain so static, and he's basically, if you break things down to like the meat and potatoes here, is he's basically just relying on the talent of his playmakers to win. And you can't be successful, or I guess that only goes so far in today's NFL game Whereas a guy like Bobby Slowick is out there maximizing and trying to pull every ounce of talent and upside out of his players that he can. And so I didn't come out and say I expect Houston to win in Jacksonville, but I was very adamant last week that these two offenses are being run entirely different. And it was very, very cool to see Bobby Slowick's offense, in particular Tank Dell. Micro matchup stuff aside, Nico Collins had the toughest one-on-one on paper matchup in this spot. So it kind of makes sense that Tank Dell was the one to succeed. But these two players are going to continue to be heavy pieces in this Houston offense. And yeah, I'm concerned about Jacksonville moving forward. And I think it all comes back to Doug Peterson.
Yeah, and before we switch to the other side for Houston, I will say ETN, it's not like he had a terrible game. I mean, he had over 100 total yards there, and he hasn't had a terrible season. But, Cody, to go back to your point about Calvin Ridley, I think he was supposed to be the alpha. Again, these leaps were all supposed to happen. Everything was supposed to happen. And then through 3 weeks, it just hasn't really happened. Doug Peterson, I don't know what to tell you, man. You can't run the Philly special every play, I guess. So they're going to need to figure it out.